Hey guys, Timmy D with DroneMappingTools.com, and in today's video, I'm going to run through multiple scenarios that you will encounter when you're flying your RTK drone and trying to get corrections. I'm going to do this using the Mavic 3 Enterprise and the Emlid RS2 Plus. You can use the Emlid RS2, the RS2 Plus, and now the RS3. And the main difference in the RS3 and the RS2 Plus is that it offers tilt compensation, a very nice feature that, I don't know, maybe someday I'll have, but for right now, my RS2 Plus will do me just fine. Look, it does not matter whether you're flying the Mavic 3 Enterprise, the M300, the M350, or even a drone like the Whisper Ranger Pro. Any drone that is RTK enabled, you're going to enter the same settings in all of these drones, which is going to be a URL or IP address, username, password, and a mount point. It's the same. It doesn't matter what drone you're flying. So anyway, so today we're going to use this for our examples. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the different scenarios. So I'll just give a scenario. I'm going to walk through, let you see my settings on the tablet and on the RS2 unit and on the Mavic 3, the controller. And then we'll go to another scenario. And we'll just do that so that if maybe you have one scenario you're familiar with, but then there's another one you're not sure, well, how would I do that? You can just go through the timeline on the video, find the scenario that matches what you're looking for, see what I do, and it'll be easy peasy. I'm going to try to make this fairly quick and run through each of them as quickly as possible, but yet cover all the details for every one of those. So, and before I get started, I'm just going to tell you, I have talked to multiple customers who already have something like a Trimble. I mean, it could be the Trimble R8, the Trimble R2. Is it an R2? I think so. Anyway, it could be one of the name brand GNSS receivers. They are good receivers. They are. But in 99% of the cases, they are not user-friendly for being able to use them as a base and doing RTK to your drone. Now, a lot of companies will have RTK service through their state, through the Department of Transportation, through a university in the state, or just a third-party provider. And when you have that, well, look, you can just do RTK to your drone, and you don't even have to have a base unit. You're just doing RTK using an RTK service. But here's the deal. When you go out to a job site, what do we all do every time you go to a job site? If it is going to be for construction, for anything related to elevation, contours, moving dirt, you name it, there's always going to be a control point. Everybody ties to the same control point so that everything matches. So when you go out and you do a flight and you just use RTK, somebody could have come out ahead of you and already set up a control point that is actually a little different from what you get when you use RTK. And so if you want the utmost accuracy and you want in terms of matching what is already there, you have to use a control point if a control point's been established. But again, we're going to run through the different scenarios and talk about each one of those. So let's go ahead and get started. The first scenario, I'm just going to gloss over. It really doesn't need mentioning, but you go out to fly, you've got your RTK drone, but you do not have a base or a rover. However, you do have access to RTK service. Obviously, your remote controller has to be on a Wi-Fi that has internet access. And then we're simply going to go into our RTK configurations. And so down here, you're just going to enter your NTRIP port address. So that's going to be either like caster.emlid.com. We'll go over that in a little bit. Your port number, which is usually what I think 2101. Your account, username, your account password, and then your mount point. Those are the things that you enter on every single drone. And of course now, as you can see here, there's 5 user profiles that you're able to use, so it makes it very nice. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the Southern Miss. You can see I'm now connected to that. I'm going to turn RTK on. And now, in just a minute, it'll probably go and we'll have a fix. And let's go into there. And we do. So I now have a fix. I've turned it on and we're good to go. So I can now fly a mapping mission over here. I would have very good accuracy. But again, it's worth noting that if you're going to do a mission and provide either LiDAR or photogrammetry data that is tying into other things going on where checkpoints have already been established or control has already been set up, you want and should, in my case, must always tie into the existing control at that job site. So that is option number one. So let's move on to number two. Okay, so in scenario number two, you have the RTK drone, you have a base. So if you look, you can see that I have the RS2 Plus base unit, and it has internet access. Okay, so the scenario is we do have internet access. And look, internet access can be through a SIM card, or you can attach a Wi-Fi jetpack to your pole and provide internet access. So for any guys that have the old RS2 originals, those in the United States are no good in terms of using a SIM card, but all you have to do is strap a jetpack to it, provide internet access through Wi-Fi, and voila, it's just as good as the RS2 Plus. And then now you have the RS3, which of course has lean compensation, but everything else is just the same. Now I'm going to switch over and I'm going to go to Emlid Flow. So I am connected to the base unit through Wi-Fi. I literally have this connected. That is connected online through a SIM card. So I do have a SIM card in there. And so in this scenario, we have a control point, okay? And so I now want to load in the data for the control point. And so we're going to go, and I'm going to go to my base settings, and instead of an average fix, I'm going to say, you know what? We want to configure, and instead of average fix, I'm going to do manual. I'm going to say I want to choose from a project. And now this base for tutorial, there's that, base 1. So the point that it's at has already been established. It's a control point. Matter of fact, it's the crosshairs. It's the crosshairs of the parking lot, and there's a little red arrow pointing there, and I'm going to say apply. Okay? So I do apply. My antenna height is, I need to set that, 1.885. Okay, so my antenna height, this is a prism pole, not a survey rod. So it is 1.885 to the bottom of the antenna. So that's very important. We can't get that wrong. So I'm done there, and it'll be 2.019 to the actual phase center. So I'm going to hit save. And now this point has been saved. I'm going to save that again. I'm going to go out. Now, base output, we are going to output this to the Emlid Caster Service, okay? And so when I output that, this right here, this is going to the Emlid Caster. And if you don't know what this is, all you do is log on. You go to caster.emlid.com and you log into your account. It is free. Emlid provides free caster service when you have their units. So go there. It will tell you what your base details are, and it's going to tell you what your rover details are. So in here, this is my my base information. Let me cancel out here. All right. I'm going to go out. So it tells me online what your details are for outputting your corrections. All right, so I'm now recording on the RS2. And what I need to do is I'm going to go down. And so this is now going to be my user information for the rover. So again, when you go to the Caster website and you log in, it's always going to tell you what your base details are for outputting corrections. And it's also going to tell you what the rover details are to input for your drone. And it doesn't matter if it's your drone or if it's your RS2 Rover. So in this case, when I get ready to go and do checkpoints, then I would enter the same details into my Rover. So in this case, we're going to do that here. And now when I close it out, I have a fix. Of course, it turns white up at the top. It's a solid white RTK when you have a fix, okay? And then also when you have RTK enabled, I go back up. When it's turned on, you cannot take off unless you have a fix. So if I was to try to take off and did not have a fix, well, it won't happen, okay? All right, so that is scenario number 2. Okay, in our third scenario, you have RTK drone. That's just a given. We have the base right here, but we're going to assume there is no internet access. You're out in a very remote area. You got a SIM card. It doesn't matter. You do not have internet access on your base, okay? Now, what you're going to see, so one of the things I keep is this is an old, man, this thing is years old. I don't even know how old this is. It's an amped wireless dual Wi-Fi router. And why this is nice is because I can connect any 2.4 or 5 gigahertz device to it, and they're all kind of networked together. Now, in some cases, so I even have this thing set up to automatically log in and then provide internet access if I have I got 3 different jetpacks, so if any one of them is on, it'll automatically connect to that, and then I'll also have internet access to all the devices which are connected to it. So that's nice. In this case, this is already up and rolling. So what I need to do now, let me start recording again on the phone. All right, we're now recording on the drone controller. We're going to go into our custom network. Not there. We're going to go down and we're going to go to configuration number 3. We're going to edit number 3, okay? And it tells us, it gives us the IP address. And so we're going to use 192.168.1.100. Okay? Port is still going to be 2101. In general, it's always going to be 2101. The account is reach. Okay? Next. Password is Emlid reach. Next. And make sure you type it correct. If you have a typo, and just be careful, type it correct. And then the mount point is reach in all capital letters. REACH, okay? I'm going to save. Connecting. It says connected, right? And it may take it just a little bit to actually get a fix. The mount point is all uppercase, reach. And I'm going to save, okay? And now it says it's connected, so let's turn reach on. We're going to turn RTK. Now we're just going to wait on it to get a fix. And you can scroll down to the bottom and you see there's our residuals down there, very good. And it should say, we should actually, so why is this sudden RTK position change? Why in the world? All right. Okay, so the camera battery died, so here we are, we're back. I restarted the drone, and now it is perfectly fine. And so I'm going to tell you what happened. I originally loaded up the base point, which was the incorrect base point for this. The base point I loaded up for the base unit here is actually almost a mile away. So this never got a fix. but yet it was assuming that its position was based on the base unit being a mile from here. Well, then when I loaded in the correct RTK coordinates for the base and then reconnected, it gave me the error sudden, you can even see it here, sudden RTK position change. And you know, that's exactly what happened, because it looked at the data and said, hey, we're all of a sudden a mile away, something is wrong. And so that is just, I'm glad that it happened, because you see what can happen if you load up the wrong base coordinate in your RS2 or RS3. That's it for that scenario. The next scenario is that we have the RTK drone, as always. We have a base unit set up. We do not have, we're gonna say we do not have internet, because if you have internet, it doesn't, you already know that you can set up your base unit, do Emlid Caster based corrections, and then you can take off and go fly. My base can be here. I literally could go a half a mile away and I can fly my mission. When you have internet connectivity and it's a good connection all the time, your base is up, it's sending up corrections to the Caster network, you go fly, this has internet, and you just go fly. But now the last scenario is you have a base unit. It's on a control point, but it is not a good point to fly from. So what do? We're going to have our base. We're going to use the LoRa radio to send corrections to the rover, which is a half a mile away, in a very good spot to fly from. We will then do local NTRIP, which we just demonstrated on the rover, so that the rover is now providing corrections to the drone. So it almost becomes like its own base. It's the rover to this base, but it becomes the base unit for our drone flight. So we're going to move down. All right, so we have now moved down. We have our rover set up, and just to recap, we have our base set up over control. So the base is over the control point, but it was not a good area to fly from. I've set up the rover. This is a wide open, great area to fly from. And we do not have internet service. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this receiving corrections by the LoRa radio. So we're connected. Now let's open up Emlid Flow. Here's the rover. You can even see there's the 192.168.1.103. Now, corrections input, we do not want to do NTRIP, right? Because we have no internet connection. So we're going to go down, we got to go to LoRa. So I'm going to switch over to the LoRa radio, and it says receiving corrections, and so we'll probably receive a fix here shortly. Boom, there we just went to a fix. But now what do we want to do? We want to do, we're going to go to base settings. We're going to do an average fix, and let's see, what is it going to do? It's a 2 minute. Actually, we don't want to wait 2 minutes. Let me configure that. We're going to do 1 minute. Well, not even 1 minute. I'm going to do, now I would normally do a little longer than this, but we're running out of camera battery. So we're going to do 8 seconds. 8 seconds will determine our location, and then our base will now have a fix, okay? And yeah, our antenna height is correct, so we're good there. So I'm going to go back. Now I'm going to go to base output. We're still going to use, local NTRIP, right? So I'm going to hit on the, and this time you see it's 168.1.103. So we're going to enter. We're going to go in. We have to reset up our RTK because earlier we had it set up for the base. Now we got to connect it to this rover, okay? So we're going to go, go to RTK. We gotta edit this. So now let's go down to number 5. We're going to edit number 5, and we're going to call it RTK Rover. Okay. 192.168.1.103. Next, it's going to be port 2101. It's going to be reach. Next, password is Emlid reach. Okay. And the mount point is reach, all capital letters. Right there. Hit save. RTK data connected, not in use. It might take it just a second. Boom. Okay. Excuse me. We now have RTK on the drone using this rover right here, okay, which is connected to the base over the control point. We're now tied to control. We can fly. We've got a good location to fly from. And let's say we do part of our mission here. We move it. We got to go somewhere else. The LoRA radio, it's been my experience with phone, with trees and houses and telephone poles and all that. You get 2 miles easy on the LoRA. Sometimes you can go up to almost 3, but in almost all cases, you can get up to 2 miles. That's it. That right there, this is all of your scenarios. I guess, I mean, there might be some other scenario. If there is, put it down in the comments below, and I'll try to answer or do a sub video to cover that. But this right here covers just about anything you're going to walk into when you go out to a field and fly. So again, if something wasn't clear, if you still have questions on setting up the RTK, let me know. After this, we're going to go into the office and I'm going to bring up and show you using Emlid Flow on the website. So I'm going to bring up the Caster Service on the computer, and I'm also going to open up Emlid Flow, a very good app. Now, they have a free version, and then they have the version that you can subscribe to. In my opinion, it's worth every penny to subscribe to it. Let's take a look at the Emlid Flow and Emlid Caster. And so let's go ahead and look at that. So we're going to take a quick second and just look at the Emlid Caster setup. So this is a free service that is provided by Emlid, and you just simply go up and just type in caster.emlid.com, and when you do, it'll take you right to the web page, and then you're going to come here and click sign in. Okay, and once you sign in, you can, if you have a username and password, you're going to do that. If you don't, then you can apply for an account and get it set up. So I'm going to go ahead and I have my test account here, info@dronemappingtools.com. So we're going to click on that. So let me just tell you this. When you come here, I don't know why this happens, but the best thing to do is when you see this pop up, always click on Not Your Account. It will then take you to the login screen, and there's where you will in fact log in with your login credentials. Okay, so I'm going to click login. Now it will take me to the main page. Now when you come here, as I was mentioning in the field video, this will tell you everything you need for setting up your base, and it will also give you the details for setting up your rover. And the rover is going to be the drone controller, or even your RS2 Plus, or RS3 Rover. Any of those, you'll use the details down here. Now you're going to see here, see where it says offline right here? It says offline. So I'm going to come over here to my base unit, and before we do that, this right here will use caster.emlid.com. That's the address. The port number will always be 2101 right here. Okay. Now the password. So I'm going to copy this password in your mount point. That's going to be the two things that are critical. So I'm going to come over here to my base, and we're going to come in here, and I'm going to paste in my password, and then you can see that the mount point 14416, that is correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit apply, and then after I hit apply, it's going to come over here, and you're going to see that it says online. Now let's go back to my base settings. One thing that is very important right now, this is actually incorrect, because I am sending corrections up here. It says it's online, but I'll tell you that it is incorrect in that if you ever go from one location to the next, you always have to fix this. And so I'm going to change it from manual, because right now I'm just at a completely different location. I want to say average fix. Now let's go over here and do all right, well, let's just do this. I'm going to hit apply, and averaging time, I'm going to do it at 10 seconds. Apply and average again. But right now, see, I still have a single. And let's go to my correction input. Ooh, my correction input is going to be NTRIP. I'm going to hit apply. Now I can go back to my base settings. I'm going to do average fix. Now up here at the top, you see I have a float. Now, mind you, I'm doing this from the web interface from my PC. But if you're using the Emlid Flow app on your phone, it would be the same thing. But now I have a float. The unit is sitting in the window. Let's look at satellites and see what we have. Yeah, it's not. I'm not going to get a fix because I only have one green bar because I have terrible reception, being how it's inside sitting in a window. So here's what we're going to do. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to go back to my base settings. Instead of average fix, I'm going to say, hey, even if it has a float, let's do an average float and then average it for 10 seconds. If you were in the field and you have a fix, which you should, so in the real world out in the field, I would set this to between 3 and 5 minutes. And I would also have it set to average fix. But because I don't even have a fix, I'm going to say float. I'm going to say apply and average again. And now it's going to do a 10-second average using the float data. Okay. So again, out in the field, I didn't record this in the field, so I'm showing you now, but you would in fact say fix and do 3 to 5 minutes. Of course, my antenna height, if I was on a rod, that's going to be like 1.885 because I have a prism pole, as I said in the video. If you have a true GPS pole, then yours would be 2 meters most likely. But in the case for me, my rod height is always 1.885 to this line right here, which is the ARP, antenna reference point, or the bottom of the antenna. Okay, so there we go. Now I go back to my NTRIP caster. This is online, and down here, this tells me exactly what I need to do in order to log on with a Rover. It gives you all the details. So in the Mavic 3 controller, the M300, if you're using the Whisper Ranger Pro, or you're actually using the RS2 Rover and you've got the Emlid Flow app pulled up, this is what you enter in. All of these details are what you enter in for your Rover mount point. So I hope that helps. Let's go ahead and move on to the rest of the video. The Emlid Flow app is amazing. These guys, they just keep making it better and better and better. And now, like I said, with the RS3, it's got tilt compensation, so it is a phenomenal receiver. I'd love to have, even if I just get one for a Rover, so when I go shoot shots for a Rover, I wouldn't need a pair. Using the RS2 for my base, but then an RS3 for a Rover, now that'll be a sweet setup. So anyway, all right, well, if the video's been helpful, man, give me a thumbs up. If there's other things you want to see, this will be part of the LiDAR tutorial. Now, I'm a little behind on that. I jacked up my knee and couldn't get out and do some of the stuff I needed to do, but hopefully next week I will be done. I will reference this video in the LiDAR tutorial because doing RTK in a LiDAR flight, to me, is very important. It's something you need to do. Thank you, guys. I'll see you in the next video.